Test, 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 test. One, two, three. Test. Can you guys hear me? Can you still hear me now? No, I had a lot of people. I just talked about this huge new development and everything, you guys. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, cool. Well, I'll share my screen and just kind of like hit you guys with the cliff notes. But some of the big things that I kind of like talked about was that, the mixed use development going on right now in the Chicago suburbs, with a big thing, with a big migration of people that live in the city of Chicago migrating to the Chicago suburbs is that a lot of people in the city of Chicago crave that walkability. And with a lot of these mixed use developments going on in places like Schaumburg, as well as what's happening at Yorktown Mall and Lombard, as well as the Grove in Bloomingdale, Naples getting something with Block 59, and there's something happening out in St. Charles, just east of the river as well. Ton of new opportunity coming in also. But I'm going to share my screen one more time and just kind of brush through it with y'all, especially because I was muted for like the last 6 minutes and everything like that. But you can kind of see here, restaurant campus on target for spring 2026, opening in Schaumburg near Woodfield. A lot of these restaurants are kind of like main anchors here: Lazy Dog, Cava, Piccolo Buco, and Nonsense, as well as Velvet Taco, Crisp Green, and Panda Express. This is coming October 2026, but Lazy Dog, Cava, and Piccolo Buco are kind of like huge ones that have been going into a lot of these mixed-use developments. Super cool to see, rather than just those kind of like restaurants we typically see in new developments and everything like that. But you got some renderings here, kind of like the general vicinity, northwest corner of Meacham and Gulf Roads in Schaumburg. Here's the vacancy and everything like that. Woodfield Mall is right here, and I think personally to me this is great with what's happening as well, with Schaumburg, because if you haven't been here before, and I mentioned this when I was muted, but with Schaumburg, a lot of people came here because of Woodfield Mall, and that was kind of like the big hub. But with everything happening and kind of like how people do all their shopping today, I think like one of the big things right now is that people crave that attention, like I said, and create more of that relationship with one another. So having these mixed use developments where you have more of that live, play, work, kind of thing is great for sure. And like I said, you guys, if you guys have any questions, drop them down in the comments down below. I think personally for me, like I said, this is huge for the Chicago suburbs with all these mixed use developments. Something about like the western suburbs in general, and pretty much I was 45 minutes west, north, south of the city of Chicago, is that it's pretty built out over here. So comparing to states like Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Florida, and things along that nature, is that there's not a lot of new development going on like this, as well as new development subdivisions. So things like this, where they're taking old vacant pieces of commercial and creating to these mixed use developments, is definitely a benefit in my opinion as well. But something random too is I found in an article, if you guys are big fans of Nutella, there's this article that Patch.com released, was that a new Nutella flavor coming in 2026 will be made in the Chicago suburbs. And the coolest part of this, and I was honestly super shocked, is that this is a $75 million development project that's going to create 65 new local jobs to make the spread, with production slated to start later this year in 2025. But it's actually happening in Franklin Park, Illinois, so a western Chicago suburb just east of Elmhurst, Illinois. $75 million development, pretty nuts for sure. Is Ferrero's a new Butterfingers flavor, Butterfinger Marshmallow, which will hit the market in time just for Halloween this year. And then you got this new Crunch White Bar with white chocolate, which will be opened in Bloomington. So this is just kind of like the random stuff and just kind of interesting, in my opinion, that I find on the news all the time. And I wanted to share this all with you guys because it's not enough for me to do a whole video on, but I think it's pretty cool just to see in what's being made here as well. So I want to share that with you guys also. But now we're going to kind of like head into what's happening with some of these articles that NBC5 Chicago put out, and they put out actually two articles. Especially, I know a lot of you guys that watch this channel are looking to make a move here to the Chicago suburbs. And if that's you, or if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the Chicago suburbs in general, or like I said, relocate to the area, I'd love the chance to help you out. You can just reach out to me via email. All my information is down below in the description. You can probably watch one of these pinned comments as well. But the first article I want to show you guys from NBC5 Chicago is that they put together a list of the best places to live in 2025 by US News and World Report. There were actually 4 Chicago suburbs that made the top 100 and more that made in the top 250. And we can kind of go as this article goes on and everything like that. But what they scored high in metrics was good home value, strong job market, and high quality of life. This report, which surveyed people from 250 major cities, analyzed responses across difference indexes, which accounted for quality of education, healthcare, house affordability, crime rate, culture, and leisure offerings, and more. So you can kind of see here is that Buffalo Grove is in Northwest Chicago, so ranked 63, and Naperville ranks frequently high on similar lists, came in actually at number 76. The top rated one, the top 100 actually was Arlington Heights. Okay, so Northwest suburbs as well, just kind of like that Buffalo Grove. Naperville out in the west, Palatine, then Northwest suburbs, Elgin just there as well, passing the 100. But then you also got like Des Plaines, Skokie, Bolingbrook, Bloomington, and Schaumburg. I would say the only one that isn't really a Chicago suburb would be Bloomington. It's more of like a college town, I would say. But I would say in just kind of like the western suburb pocket, if you're going to group stuff like that, is I would look at Naperville, Schaumburg, and Bolingbrook, and everything else is kind of like that northwest suburb from Des Plaines, Skokie, Palatine, Buffalo Grove, and Arlington Heights. And I would say some of the big things that a lot of those kind of have in common, I would say like the big thing is that they have pretty good transportation for majority of those towns on that list. I feel like Bolingbrook has a lot of good stuff happening, especially with the Brooks property management that was part of the Block 59 project. It looks like they're taking over the promenade. I could be wrong on that, but I know there's a huge development going on with the promenade as well, with someone taking it over to improve it as well. But some of the big things here, especially with home values, especially when you look at like kind of like the northwest suburbs, is that it's interesting market there because I feel like that 450 to 550,000 price point gets you more of kind of like that split level home compared to like where the western suburbs you're getting more of that traditional 2-story, unless you're looking more of that like southern portion of the western suburbs, like the southeast portion, that like Darien, general vicinity, as well as Woodridge, is that you have a lot more split level homes there as well. So that's one of the big things to kind of look at. And then I'm going to put up another article right here. And this is also came in from NBC5 Chicago. But 2 Chicago suburbs rank on Redfin's 2025 Hottest Neighborhoods report. So we kind of look at this report here. They kind of rank the same thing as well, like I mentioned, that previous NBC5 article. But a lot of different rankings kind of go into this, and what they said is that Redfin's chief economist Daryl Fairweather said in the report is that these neighborhoods are generally a 15 to 20-minute drive to the downtown of a metro, a reasonable commute for workers, and have easy access to shopping, sought-after schools, and recreational pursuits. And we go to this list here, and it's kind of interesting, but not really, to kind of see this top 10. You have 1, 2, 3 spots in the Midwest, actually 4, 5. So 50% of these towns are in the Midwest. But sitting at number 3 is Hampton Hills in St. Charles, Illinois. If you guys have watched any of my videos, YouTube videos before, I know I dropped a YouTube video a few weeks ago in regards to the Tri-Cities area, St. Charles, Batavia, and Geneva, is that I, as a real estate agent, have a lot of growth potential looking at those towns, especially if you're not looking at the city of Chicago for work all the time. I think that's like one of the biggest flaws of the Tri-Cities is that if you're looking for easy access to the city because you work there or you just like the everyday life over there, it's a little longer commute. But the big thing here is that you get a lot of bang for your buck. The downtown areas are awesome. Schools are top rated, and there's just so much going on over here. I think for me, where I live in Wheaton is that, I am central to kind of pretty much everything where I work, where I'm helping my clients and everything like that. So it helps me a ton. Here we have a question from Jack Kessler, is that general real estate question is, I'm looking to buy in the Chicago suburbs. I'm a first-time home buyer. When working with a real estate agent to find a place, do I, as a buyer, pay for those services? Long story short is that the short answer to that is that it's kind of like a yes or no question. Jack, if you want to, my email is down below in the description, or if you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook, or you found this video on Instagram, shoot me a message on there. More than happy to kind of like answer your specific questions and give you a proper consultation and everything like that. But like I said earlier, I was definitely muted earlier as well, you guys. Drop questions if you guys have them. And, whether you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or watching the rerun to this, drop comments. I'm more than happy to answer kind of anything you guys have. YouTube's kind of been like my one thing this year, and I'm looking forward to dropping 52 videos this year, one every single week. So if you guys have been a part of this journey, I know that there's a ton of new subscribers on this channel as well. Looking forward to connecting with you guys more also. But I want to show you guys that I mentioned that, Redfin named top 10 St. Charles and Campton Hills. And I kind of just want to show you a quick perspective of what's kind of been happening in the real estate market here in the St. Charles and that kind of like Tri-Cities area. So this is from the MLS right here, and this is called InfoSparks. So we're able to manipulate data and go as far back as 10, the max 531 to kind of like see market trends. So right now what I have is I have a rolling 12 months. So each data point here is 12 months of activity from month to month for that whole year, basically. And this kind of just shows the growth. I'm going back all the way from 2015 all the way to 2025 now. The biggest thing that I personally see, and when I have a lot of consultations with buyers in the market and just people in general, is that one of the biggest thing, and I talked to a client about this earlier today, someone that was inquiring about purchasing a home, is that the biggest thing is not timing the market, it's time in the market, right? A lot of people didn't think that this market would do what it's doing now with what happened during the pandemic and everything like that. But as I share my screen right here again with InfoSparks, is that we can kind of see the 2015 trend. So this is just average sales price in general, and kind of just like what's happened in the past 10 years. So you can kind of see the average sales price for a home of January 2015 in St. Charles, Illinois was just over $340,000. And then when we get to 2025, as April 2025, it's $559,971. So just under 560,000. And the pandemic happened right around over here ish, I believe it was. No, it was 2020, right? So March 2020, right over here. So we kind of saw this quick dip right here going into the summer, and then everything just kind of exploded going through then. So just in terms of perspective here, is that from March 2020 to January 2015, that 6-year spread, you can kind of see just gradual increase and obviously different types of product in the real estate market sell, but you can kind of see just the drastic push here. Something I like looking at when I talk to my clients is called month supply of inventory. And this is what's month supply of inventory in St. Charles. And this is kind of how we talk about what the market trends are doing. So anything below 4 month supply of market inventory of supply of homes typically results into a seller's market. And 4 to 6 is basically a neutral market. And anything over 6 months supply is typically a buyer's market. Okay. So when we look at January 2015, is that we saw about 6 months supply of inventory. So if there were no homes to come onto the market, they would take about 6 months to sell everything. This is considered hypothetically a neutral market, just over a neutral market. 4 to 6 months, I would say, is about a neutral market. And it's been pretty neutral in St. Charles just in general. It got a little hotter as more people started to discover it as well, you can see here. And it's continuing to do so until we get to March 2020, where everything just started to come down. And then you can kind of see we're in severe sellers markets here in St. Charles with only 1 month supply of inventory. We kind of had a peak up here, which is great to see, truthfully, but we're still in the sellers market. I think that's kind of like the big thing that people look at and everything like that. And that's personally what I look at. It's kind of like 1 supply of inventory. I think it's a big thing in the market and everything like that. So if you're watching this video and you are a seller in the St. Charles area or even the Tri-Cities, this can be a great time to capitalize on the market and figure out what's beneficial for you. And if you're a buyer, I don't see inventory loosening up. So if you're looking in St. Charles still and you have goals to like be there for like 5 to 10 years plus, I think it's still going to be a good return on investment, in my opinion. I think just overall the Chicago suburbs landscape is that, the big three things here is that we have a big metropolitan, the city of Chicago. We have easy access with the metro. There's top-rated schools and the infrastructure is pretty built out here. We don't really have a lot of new subdivision home sites, so we don't really compete with the resale homes with new construction. So it's really just a supply and demand issue, truthfully. So that's kind of like the biggest thing and everything like that. But as we head into June right now, I think, if you're a buyer or seller right now, is that the market will probably loosen up a little bit. It's just really a seasonality thing. A lot of families and individuals start going on vacations. A lot of those renters that didn't end up buying are probably renewing their rents. But there should be one last push for those families looking to get into school districts of their choice and to register their kids for school. At the end of the day, there's always going to be people looking. I would say peak market was pretty much like April to around this time. And then we're going to probably transition to a little different market as we head into June. But I think it's still going to be pretty hot, in my opinion, as well. I think, when you look at like the market and just like the landscape of everything like that as well, is that one of the big things that I typically see is that, focus on location. I think that's like the biggest thing when you're looking here in the Chicago suburbs. I have a lot of clients that still work in the city, so metro access is easy. Having easy metro access is really important for those of my clients. So being able to kind of get that is truly beneficial and everything. So if you're looking to make that move for sure, I think focusing on location is important, especially if you're still working in the city of Chicago and you need access there. I know there's a lot of projects, I believe, with IDOT, which is Illinois Department of Transportation. I think there's a lot of projects going on till about 2030, so commuting with a drive might be tough. So using the metro line could be beneficial. There's a lot of express lines as well. It's pretty easy, to get a hold of also. But yeah, no, that's kind of the real estate market in a nutshell. That's where I think it's going. We help a lot of families every single year. We help about 60 families last year. And, thanks for watching this live stream. If you're coming back here and watching the rerun, drop comments still. Let me know what you guys think about like kind of these new developments going on in the Chicago suburbs, those articles that I presented, and anything else that you guys want to see. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and if you had questions about buying or selling a house in the Chicago suburbs or relocating here to the Chicago suburbs as well, I would absolutely be honored to serve you, and I'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. Just shoot me an email. All my information is down below in the description, and I will see you guys on the next live stream.